Hey guys, what's going on? I'm here to give my thoughts on um the latest show from AEW that has premiered, AEW Rampage. Now this show um was the first episode yesterday, and it will continue to air every Friday night after Friday Night SmackDown. So not the Friday Night Wars like we had the Wednesday Night Wars, not head to head technically like Nitro used to, or like Dynamite used to air head to head with NXT, but congruent with it right after. And my thoughts of it. Well, what I thought of it, I thought it was a spectacular show. It was. It airs on TNT up until January of 2022. Then it will switch to TBS, which is really historic because TBS is the station that basically established nationwide wrestling in 1975 until about was it I think 1999 or 2000 when WCW Saturday Night got canceled. And WCW in the early 90s too used to have a show called the WCW Power Hour that would air on Friday nights on this time slot. So AEW once again reaching in and um, melding itself and into the legacy of WCW, kind of showing how they are in many ways the successor to or the rightful heir to WCW's legacy. They are, in a sense, to WCW what the Sassanid Persian Empire was to the Achaemenids. They are the revitalization of WCW's legacy. And they are also continuing this creative marriage, this creative bonding with another historic chief rival of the WWE, Impact Wrestling, formerly known as TNA. On this historic show last night, the TNA Championship, or as it's known now since 2017, the Impact Championship was defended by Kenny Omega, the AEW champion, as well as the Impact champion, against Christian Cage, the Instant Classic. And congratulations to Christian Cage on becoming the Impact champion and reminding us of a time when Impact Wrestling slash TNA was, um, in my opinion, the top wrestling promotion in the world. And that was around 2006, 2007, up until about 2010 when Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff came there. He reminded me of the golden age of Impact Wrestling, and that Impact Wrestling, through its connections with AEW and through its connections with New Japan Pro Wrestling, could make a comeback. That Impact Wrestling is one of those companies that just when you think it's dead, it never is. It's the little engine that could in professional wrestling because let's face it, in 2016, when AJ Styles went to the WWE, when Samoa Joe went to the WWE, when Sting went to the WWE, when EC3 went to the WWE, and then Jeff Jarrett got kicked out of his own company, and Dixie Carter's family sold the company to Anthem Entertainment. and then they rebooted it. It was like you thought that Impact Wrestling was on its deathbed, and so, they were just going to sell to Vince McMahon, and it was just going to be like another WCW. But that didn't happen. Impact Wrestling still kept chugging along, and even made history in 2019 when Tessa Blanchard became the first woman of a major promotion to win the World Heavyweight Championship. And in many ways, in 2002, people said the exact same thing, that Impact Wrestling at that time, known as TNA, was also the successor to WCW, was also the heir to WCW's legacy, because Jeff Jarrett had started it. And Jeff Jarrett, at the time when WCW closed in the in 2000, 2001, was the top star in WCW. So in many ways, they said Impact Wrestling or TNA was a continuation of WCW, and in many ways it was. And that's how people saw it. That's how the fans saw it, because AJ Styles was in WCW, Sting was in WCW, a lot of guys were in WCW, and they were a Southern-based promotion, just like WCW. But they were never able to become mainstream in the way that WCW was. You know, they were popular here on the net. They had a lot of followers here on the net, but they were never able to become popular like WCW. But like I said, they're a little engine that could. You just can't kill Impact Wrestling. And of course, up until 2006, they had that affiliation with the NWA, which of course reminded people of WCW, because WCW as well was longly affiliated with the NWA until the mid 90s. So was WWE, but their affiliation with the NWA ended back in the 60s. But to many people, when the NWA went national and started to be produced on national television, was after 1985, when Jim Crockett became the president and all the NWA stars were featured on TBS, like Cody Rhodes' father. So, in many ways, both these companies, Impact Wrestling as well as AEW, inherited the legacy of WCW as being the main competitor to the World Wrestling Federation, being centered on in-ring product rather than entertainment, being Vince McMahon's chief rival. And Impact Wrestling has had some hurdles and some ups and downs, and AEW is doing really well. But I think AEW, in a sense, sees um, Impact as an ideological cousin, if you will, because for the longest time, WWE had no rival, and TNA was its only rival. Just in the same way, I think that Ring of Honor inherited the legacy of ECW, right? Because Ring of Honor was a chief indie and a feeder of WWE's top talent. Many of the people that are on top right now in WWE were once in Ring of Honor. So Ring of Honor and ECW have that relationship that Impact Wrestling and AEW have with WCW. So it's cool to see Impact Wrestling and Impact Wrestling and AEW working together to kind of keep that legacy of WCW and that second brand, that chief rival of the WWE/WWF alive. Because you had NWA versus the WWF in the 70s and 80s, NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, versus the WWF in the 80s, WCW versus WWF in the 90s, TNA slash Impact Wrestling versus WWE in the 2000s, and now TNA and AEW versus WWE um, in the 2020s. So, what does this mean for the three brands of WWE? See, because WWE always says, well, we don't have a competition. We compete with ourselves. We're our own competition. And they create Raw, the Raw brand, and the SmackDown brand. And they always kind of, in their minds, within their world, within the WWE universe, kind of position SmackDown as like a WCW. Because SmackDown was always centered on in-ring product, and for the longest, especially after 2005, they used the World Heavyweight title, the big gold belt that the NWA Jim Crockett Promotions used. So they kind of saw themselves, SmackDown did, at least in the SmackDown 6 era, as an ideological heir to WCW as well. But that's sort of like, so you have Rome, and Rome, that's sort of like saying that the Ottoman Empire is the ideological heir to Rome, just because the Ottomans called themselves Romans and took on some of the outer trappings of what was Rome slash Byzantium. That doesn't make them Rome. Obviously, Turks were a chief rival to Rome, to the Byzantines. So why would the Byzantines be Rome? It's sort of like here. Why would SmackDown ever be the ideological heir to WCW just because they use the big gold belt, just because they center more on in-ring product in terms of their wrestling? They're still affiliated with Vince McMahon, and in fact, it was SmackDown that ran Thunder out of business in 1997. So, saying that SmackDown is the ideological heir to WCW is like saying that, again, the Ottoman Empire is the ideological heir to the Byzantine Empire. it would it would make more sense to say that Russia was the ideological heir to the Byzantine Empire after its fall in 1453 than it would to say the Ottomans, who were their chief rivals for centuries. So, anyway, what did I think about the card besides Christian Cage winning the Impact Wrestling Championship against uh, Kenny Omega? The match between Britt Baker and Red Velvet was really well done. The commentary with Mark Henry, Chris Jericho, and Taz and Excalibur was really well done. But I don't know about four guys in the commentary team. I know they used to again do that in WCW when they would have um, Mike Tenay, Mike Tenay, Dusty Rhodes, Bobby Heenan, and Tony Schiavone. But I don't know. I like three. Even two works really good. So and Miro versus Fuego del Sol for the TNT Championship. I'm liking where they go with Miro. A lot of people don't like him since he left WWE and he's no longer Rusev, but he's all right. You know what I mean? I like him as TNT champion. And I look forward to more episodes of Rampage. This is kind of like their Thunder. This is their SmackDown. This is their B show rather than the YouTube one. And I look forward to more success and more growth from both AEW and Impact. Peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I wonder who's going to really go after Christian Cage's Impact title. We gotta wait and see. Peace, love you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe.